a lot of people live in a world where they don't get a place or a space to even entertain these kinds of conversations, or they believe they don't go on, and they definitely don't believe that men are having them, and they definitely don't believe tattoo artists are. So you guys are playing an extraordinary game just by having these conversations, and that's all we're going to do today is further this epic conversation. Just the fact that we're talking about it is going to open up so much for everybody else. So I just want to commend all three of you gentlemen for being extraordinary cats, even by having these conversations. And I'm damn honored to be here today. So thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's start off with what integrity is.
Okay.
And what it isn't.
Cool.
So number one, integrity, you can think of it simply in two ways. Number one, it's equals workability.
Yes.
Number two, it also equals your word. So simply that's it. Integrity, you can think of it as simply just your word, and it also equates to workability. That's what integrity is. Now let's talk about what it isn't.
Right.
And before I mention what it isn't, let me give just a rough analogy on what it is. I gave the analogy of like, a wall of a home. If you start removing actual studs out of the wall and you remove enough of them, you are weakening the integrity of the structure. Therefore, it's just not going to work, right? So integrity is workability, right? And that's the way we want to think about it. Okay? So that's an analogy of structural integrity being weakened. So integrity is your word, and it equals workability. So we'll want to remember that in this conversation. Two, let's talk about what it is not, which is what most of the world has been told it is. Which number one thing they've equated it to is morality.
Yeah.
Which then equates to meaning.
Yeah.
Which then equates to good or bad.
Right.
And integrity is none of those things at all. It's simply just workability.
Right.
So that's tough for some people to put their mind around at first, but I will tell you, once you start to get it, it's freeing.
Yeah.
And you'll start to get it more as we apply it in this conversation. So that's what it is, and that's what it isn't.
Right.
It's not wrong, right, good, or bad. It's not it's just all about workability. That's what it is. It doesn't mean anything.
Which starts with being your word. So, for example, today, we all had an agreement, a commitment. Hip and I gave our word to Mr. Joshua Carlton that we would be here ready to start this conversation, recording at 2. And here it is, almost 2:30 before we actually were ready.
Sure.
So we were immediately out of integrity with Josh.
Right.
We could say completely out of integrity. We could say 30 minutes out of whatever, but we're out of integrity. This is where the world instantly will start to feel bad.
And that's what I was just going to say.
He's going to be mad at us.
Totally.
This shit. Now we've got this negativity on our shoulders that we've got to combat or overcome just to get back to square one of the clean slate so we can all be whatever. And we're all thinking in our own heads, whether he is about us, whether you are about yourself, whether I am. When we attach morality, we'll start to feel bad, guilt, shame, whatever. Is he mad at me, whatever. And for us to restore it, to make it better, to try and fix it or undo it, usually with that morality attached to it, we create this mountain we've got to climb up. Now I'm going to have to be cool, going to have to do this, and this to have right standing in Josh's eyes so that maybe someday, one day, he will view us the way he did before we were out of integrity with it, whatever. Then Todd said it makes all this meaning come out. It must mean this. It means I ain't shit. It means he might be mad at me. It means whatever. And then we just start to run rackets, and then that compounding effect of the condemnation does not serve us, makes us even extra weird, and now this little thing become so cluttered and complicated and shit gets weird, all because we had morality attached to it, versus just realizing, oh, it didn't work. Todd used the analogy of structure on a building. What about this table we're all at? If you knocked a leg off of that table, does it make you a terrible guy? Does it make you a bad guy? No, but the table's just not going to work right.
Right.
And instead of us having a whole conversation on good, bad, right, or wrong that you knocked that leg off, or you could simply put the leg back on, restore its integrity, and it works again, and we can get on with our lives, right?
Right. Well, that's awesome. Let's talk about how to clean it up real quick and restore it.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things I asked you guys to do and given examples when I left the thing the last time.
Yeah.
And so we're going to make this real simple as well.
Okay.
We're going to try to keep this whole thing as simple as possible. Because the one thing that you said at the end of that I really liked is you came back to HIP saying, now we need to get back to making this simple again. But simple doesn't necessarily always equate to easy.
Almost never.
Right? But we're going to keep it simple.
That's right.
And have this conversation. So there's 3 steps to cleaning it up. And as I said before, sorry isn't necessarily one of them. That is at your disclosure, and you will be able to discern whether and when that's needed. But and you can always say it or whatever. That's just not one of the steps. The 3 steps is, number 1, just acknowledging where you broke your word.
That's right.
And I'm going to go over all 3 of these, but I just want to say them real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll go over them.
Okay.
Number 1 is just acknowledging where you broke your word to that person you broke it to. Number 2 is acknowledging the impact of having broken your word. What the impact of that was.
That's
okay.
right.
And then number 3, you're just going to then simply say what you'll do to put in place to make sure it doesn't happen the next time, versus just saying, I guarantee you that ain't never going to happen again. That's part of the step, but you want to say what you will actually put into place next time so it definitely won't happen. That's it. And if you do it authentically and you do it from your heart and you do it like just being real,
Yeah.
then it works every time, not only for the recipient, but for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's get a little bit specific on these steps. And I'll give you an specific example.
Okay.
Part 1 would be like, Matt, I've told you I was going to meet you at 5 o'clock last Tuesday or the other day, and I was late, and I didn't meet you at 5 o'clock like I said I was going to.
Yeah.
And first thing I'm going to do is mention the elephant in the room, because all we know is people have been out of the word and told you they're going to meet you there at 5, and they'll show up at 5:15, and they won't even mention that they're late. They won't even acknowledge it.
And I used to be guilty of that.
Right.
Walking in and doing cartwheels and rainbows and like, hey! And I didn't realize how much that occurred as arrogance.
Right. And,
I'm finally in the building.
And so then the recipient, if it's not acknowledged, every one of them are going to be like, wow, then they'll get offended. But some of them will actually say, we'll call you out on it. Dude, aren't you going to say, I've been here for 40 minutes waiting on you? Other people won't say it.
Yeah.
That's why you want to understand step 1 is simply just acknowledging where you broke your word to them and beating them to the punch, So number 1, you're letting them know that by acknowledging it. And so immediately, this is the step 1 of restoring integrity, letting them know that they're even important to you, right?
That's right. Their time
So I
matters,
didn't
too.
meet you at 5.
That's right.
I told you I'd be here at 5, and I'm here at 5:30.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I realized the impact of that.
Do you? Because you're lucky I'm alive right now. I almost fucking hung myself, you son of a bitch. I'm just kidding.
Since I didn't get here at 5:30, we definitely didn't get to start on time.
That's right.
I've completely set you back on possible night, and I've thrown out this whole deal out of whack, and I recognize the impact from me being late and not being my word, and the impact that it has. I also am aware of that.
Well, damn it. Now that you're saying this, it's getting a little bit harder for me to stay mad at your ass.
Well, I'm seriously, I'm sorry that I'm late. If you want to, you can say, but I'm acknowledging that I was going to be here at 5:30. I gave you my word.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I also realized that's not cool. because now I notice X, Y, Z, and element OP. Okay, now we're calling an audible and we got to scramble. Now I'm messing with your time. I just wanted to know acknowledge the impact.
Yeah.
Third, I guarantee this is never going to happen again, because next time when I'm supposed to meet you here at 5:30, I'm actually going to put an alarm clock, which I never do, except it's for the dentist or this or that. But if I'm ever going to meet Matt Clemmer again, I'm going to give myself and set alarm so I can't be late, and this will never happen again. I value you, just so you know.
Cool. Now, can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
Because when I practice this, I don't usually use the word never again as a just in case, because I'm still a flawed human. So I'll just say something like, this is what I'm going to put in place so this don't happen again, or so this don't happen next time. I just leave out the word never.
Well, so I thank you, because that is step 3, is to say what you'll put in place so it doesn't happen again.
That's right.
So yeah, that's good, because
We're practicing
we
this.
are practicing, and that's this is the thing. These 3 steps that we're being given, you wouldn't ever need to even use them if you were in integrity all the time and was never going to mess up or ever fail for the rest of your life. That's right. So this is how you can start to play the game and at least have the tools to do it.
Yep.
And turn on the listening. So let's talk about what this impact of people that are out of integrity, and then we'll get intimate with ourselves.
Sure.
But just to recap on last week, integrity. We all know people that are in and out of integrities. We all know people that tell us something, they're going to meet you here, or do X, Y, Z, or element P, or I'll be there to help you move on Saturday. Whatever they tell you, you know they ain't coming when they said it. We all know people like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so we listen to them in a real small way.
We listen to them in a really small way.
I know when dude says, I'll see you there, I know there's a 60% chance I'm not seeing him.
It happened to me last week, and what was interesting, this is a dude calling me on the phone, asking to talk to me and wants my time, right? And he's been calling me, and so now I get him on the phone. I say, is now a good time for you? I'm calling this guy back to give him my time. He's like, yes. Oh my God, this is awesome. Can I call you right back in 5 minutes? I said, absolutely. It was 10 o'clock at night at this point, and that's usually, I usually don't stay up that late. I stayed up till about 11:30 and never even heard back from the dude. And the funny thing is he's the one requesting my time. I wasn't even like trying to get him on the line. He's like, okay, I'll call you back in 5. This was that's how we all know these people. And at the same time, I used to be that guy. I mean, there's people that's going to hear this podcast, I guarantee you, that knew me back in the day that'd be like, psh, I mean, that cat was #1 candidate of being out of integrity. You know? Me. Yeah. Anything that I'm talking about.
I was the king. You've known that. But as bad as I've been since you've known me, he's got me trumped.
Really?
I think so. But we're talking.
Hey, I'm saying it first. Hey, I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? It sucks at the end of the day. Not only when you start to realize that everybody in the world's listening to you in a small way, you are listening to yourself in a super small way.
Man,
that's what it ends up happening. And so most of these people that are completely just wildly out of integrity, they are with themselves, big times, right? But one day I learned that I had a winning shot to turn this around. And not only could I turn it around, it wasn't nearly as hard as a mountain or impossible feat, because first of all, I didn't have the tools or the understanding. I didn't understand it didn't mean all this horrible stuff, and it wasn't completely attached to morality, and I was just making myself wrong all the time. And you know as well as I do, Hip, and you shared a little bit last time, if you get out of integrity for yourself, you can start to beat yourself up on and on and on and on. Well, I kept making myself wrong, and it was attached to morality, and I was never going to get a grip on integrity until someone shared these simple 3 steps with me and freed me up from the fact that it wasn't anything besides workability. Whatever you don't like in your life,
Yeah.
it's usually where you're way out of integrity.
Man.
Somewhere with someone else or yourself.
Right.
And guess what? It doesn't all it means is that area of your life isn't working. Okay? What's so cool about this is you can just make a decision. That's what Matt gave the invitation of at the end of part 1, is like giving the invitation. What if you could just wake up tomorrow and just make a decision? Today, I'm going to be my word. Okay? And you can do that. And the second you just start to get this on a small or big way, start to implement just being your word, immediately the rest of the world their listening starts to go up for you. You can start to restore integrity just around the rest of the world without even using these 3 steps, simply by start being your word.
Right.
You'll sign up and say, yeah, I mean, I'll do this or blah, blah, blah. And they know you ain't going to. They don't think so. But when you show up, they're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
I remember I told you I was going to do it. Man, you did say that. Okay.
Right.
And next thing you know,
Yeah.
the positive point is this like a light switch?